Now let's dive deeper into this mix console and see how we can add effects, how we can create some sends and add effects to those as well, and then how we can do some routing of subgroups into stereo buses over here. So starting off, let's work with this piano. I'm going to solo it. It sounds like this. I've bypassed that EQ because I don't really need it. But let's add an effect on here. I'm going to click this plus sign and I can choose from audio effects. And this is broken down into different categories. So I can go into the cakewalk category over here. And maybe let's go for the sonatas delay. So I'm just going to bring this over here. I'm going to play back and just tweak some of these delay settings. Maybe I want to increase the mix. There's feedback. And then just cut off a bit of filter out above these lows. Yeah, that sounds good. So I can close this and I can bypass all of the effects on this chain or just that effect. But I'm going to keep that delay on for now. Now let's take a look at how we can create sends. And a popular effect using sends is to create a reverb send. What this means is we can have one bus with a reverb on, and then these tracks can be sent to the reverb, meaning we're only using one reverb across multiple tracks. It keeps some coherence in the sound, makes it sounding like it's in the same room, and saves on resources. I'm going to solo the drums and work with these. So here are my drums. I can click on this plus sign here to add a send, or I can just right click on here, insert a stereo bus, and add my effects on there. But let's go for this route because what I want to show you is how you can use this insert sends assistant. So this brings up a dialog window where I can send to an existing bus. So if I wanted to send my drums to an existing bus, I could choose here. But for this demonstration, I'm going to create a new bus. This is going to be a stereo bus. The bus is going to be routed to my master output, which is fine. I can give my bus a name. I'm going to call it reverb. And then over here, we can choose an effect to use. So I'm going to go for audio effects down to overloud. And this is the reverb that's included with Cakewalk. And this is a great reverb effect. So I'm going to click on that. Then I could choose if I wanted pre-fader, but I'm going to leave these options over here unticked and just click OK. So what that does is it creates my reverb effect here on this bus. It's labeled it reverb. And over here, I've got dials where I can dial in how much reverb I want to send to that effect. So I'm just going to pull these down for now because I don't want them at this full value because then everything is going to be drained in reverb. I'm just pull these all down. So I just want to open up this reverb effect and make some changes. Now, when using a reverb effect as a send effect, you want the wet amounts all the way up, the dry all the way down. So I'm just going to turn that dry signal down and leave all the other parameters set as they are. Now I've got my drums soloed, I can play back. Now, when I increase this level that's going to the reverb send, I'm going to start hearing that reverb on the sound. So I could go into this reverb and make some changes if I want. So here are different presets. Maybe I want to go for an empty dance floor. I'll load that up. Very different. Maybe let's go for something like an 80s percussive space. And try a chamber room. Very nice. And obviously, if I wanted to add some other tracks to the reverb, I could add them as well. So here's the guitar. Send that to the reverb. Maybe the electric piano as well. Add in the bass. Now, with the bass, I don't want to add any reverb, but maybe for the piano, I'd add reverb as well. So this is about the reverb. I can bypass it. And then now adding the reverb. I'm just going to unsolo those tracks. And I just want to show you one more thing here on this reverb send. So on your bus effects over here, what you'll notice that is different is you've got gain and you've got pan. So I could, for example, pan my reverb all the way to the right. So I'm only hearing reverb on the right where the rest is dry. Or I could double click on that to get the reverb back in the center. Now that's covering your inserts. That's covering setting up send effects with effects on them. Now the last thing I want to go over is just busing some of your tracks to a bus effect and then adding extra effects to that. So for example, I did show you in the previous video how I took the bass and drums and how I routed them out to a new bus. And this is the bass and drums over here. Now, what I want to do is add effects on just this bus to process just the bass and drums. So I'm going to go for a compressor effect. I can go to the insert audio effects, down to cakewalk, and I've got a compressor over here. So what I want to do is play back and compress the bass and drums. I can set a high ratio, so maybe a ratio of about 6:1, and then I can drop this threshold. You can see the compression that's happening over here. Maybe increase the gain. Now I want a longer attack and maybe just lengthen that release slightly. So there we go. We've got some processing that's happening on just these. I want to bypass the compression. It's very subtle, but it's just helping evening out the drums and the bass, and then that's just being sent to the master output. So there you go. There's how you can work with the mix console in a couple of different ways. You've got your tracks where you can balance, change some panning, you can add some effects, or even add the Pro channel insert. Then you've got your sends that you can set up. I showed you how you could create a reverb send. So we use the insert send assistant to create this reverb. And then from these tracks, we could apply the amount of reverb that we want to send to it. And then finally, how you could route specific tracks to a bus channel. And then on that bus channel, add some extra bus processing as effects onto this track. So now that you know how the mix console works, next let's see what other things we can explore like automation and things like that.